Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. It seems I am a bit behind on my videos, and I do apologize. My original plan was to put this video out yesterday, and since it's Tuesday, normally I would have done a book tag. However, since I've been a slacker, I am going to postpone the book tag video and do this video today. It is March, and that is exciting for many reasons. One, it's my birth month, and I have a lot of videos planned to celebrate another trip around the sun. But it's also March 1st, and that means that Margaret Atwood has a new book out today. So instead of doing a video for the series Margaret Made Me Read It, which would have happened yesterday, and that's kind of like my spin-off series from Mondays with Margaret, in which I took a year to read all of Margaret Atwood's books, except for some of her graphic novels. So I'm going to do a countdown of Margaret Atwood's novels to celebrate the publication of Burning Questions. This is a new nonfiction book, and it's a collection of essays and I'm guessing probably some reviews that follows Atwood's other nonfiction, like Second Words and Moving Targets. And the writings in Burning Questions are from 2004 till 2021. And I had not expected to get this, but I was out this evening with my friend Lisa, and we decided to pop into The Next Page, which is one of the independent bookstores near me that I absolutely love, and I have talked about it before. And there was this book, so of course I had to pick it up. And my friend Lisa also blogs about books, and she likes sci-fi and romance. And I think she also blogs about vegan recipes. So she's going to be sending me all of her links, and when I receive those, as soon as I get them, I will put them in the description box below, so you can be sure to check her blog out if you get the chance. Now, if you watch the Mondays with Margaret series, then you already know that Atwood has written everything. Poetry, nonfiction, children's books, graphic novels, short stories, and 17 novels. So from those 17 novels, I will count down my top 11. And of course, as is the case anytime that I make these lists, the list could change depending on the day and how I feel. So this is going to be how I'm going to order them today, but given another time, on another day, I might change them around a bit. But as I was preparing, this is how I was feeling about things in the moment. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on these books because I've already talked about them. Every book of Margaret Atwood's has a video dedicated to each one, so I will leave a link to the playlist and all of those videos below. So please check those out if you are hoping for more in-depth reviews and what these novels are about. And why 11 and not a top 10? That's because I wanted to include some of Atwood's retellings and sci-fi, and I had to go to 11 in order to get there. So, at number 11 is a retelling. Atwood has a number of short stories and even poetry that are reimaginings of well-known stories. So, the Penelopiad is a retelling of the Odyssey by Homer, and I loved how this book started. It has a great opening paragraph, and I also like that the story is told from Penelope's perspective after death, and she is bodiless. And I also think that it's interesting that she, along with other characters in the book, are now in hell. And this is a quick read, just like a novella, and it's interesting, and it gives a new perspective on the Odyssey. At number 10 is the first book in the Mad Adam trilogy, Oryx and Crake. And this is a post-apocalyptic story, but it has enough familiarity in it that makes it seem plausible. The book is very well written. I actually think it could stand on its own, so you could read this book and be okay without having to commit to the entire trilogy. The 9th book on the pile is Surfacing. This is one of Atwood's earliest novels, and it's about two couples who travel to a remote island in the hope of finding the protagonist's father, who has gone missing. And it has, themes that are familiar in Atwood's work, especially identity and our connection to nature. There is not a lot of action in this book. It's more character driven, so if that's your thing, this is a really good book for that. And then up next, number 8 is Lady Oracle. And this novel has one of my favorite first lines. I will read it to you. It says, "I planned my death carefully, unlike my life, which meandered along from one thing to another, despite my feeble attempts to control it." I love that. This is a story within a story, which Atwood does a few times in her writing, and the main character, Joan, is a writer. And at the beginning of the story, Joan has faked her own death. And there is some really interesting characters in this, a very wide variety of characters, and there are also some interesting parallels between those characters that Joan writes and then her own life. Number 7 is Atwood's debut novel, The Edible Woman. This book has a serious topic in many ways, but it's still very clever and witty, which I learned a lot about Atwood's wittiness. It has symbolic cannibalism as the main character kind of loses her sense of self, and this book has more depth to it than it seems at first. When I did a reread, I enjoyed the second time reading it. At number 6 is The Blind Assassin. This is another novel that has a great opening that really grabs you. This is a story about two sisters, and this also has a story within a story that gives it an added layer of foreshadowing. And there are several storylines in this, maybe a bit too much for me, but things are revealed right up until the end, and I did like it. And then up next, this is kind of cheating, I admit, but I put The Handmaid's Tale at number 5. Because in many ways this book has become, so much more than it began. And it's Atwood's most popular book, and so, it would make sense to actually put this first. But I just decided to put it at 5 to kind of make it more neutral. It deserves to be on the list, but I didn't want it to overshadow, some of her other works that sometimes go overlooked and aren't really well known. So The Handmaid's Tale was the first book that I've ever read by Atwood, and then I reread last year, and it's definitely worth picking up, obviously, if you haven't already. So for number 4, I chose The Cat's Eye, and this is a story about a young girl named Elaine, and the timeline is like her as a young girl, but then there's also the story from her life as an adult, and those two storylines kind of meet in the middle. Elaine experiences some childhood trauma, and then you see how that still affects her as an adult, and I just loved this book. Number 3 is The Robber Bride. The 3 main characters are women, and it is about how they are all connected. One in particular, Zenith, she's a real piece of work, and I thought that the themes in this book were so well developed, and the writing was very compelling. I also like that these characters show up in other works by Atwood. Number 2, and I know not everybody agrees with this, but at number 2 is The Testaments, which is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, written 34 years later. I ended up loving this book much more than I thought I would have. I also think that it helped to read it not too much longer after I reread The Handmaid's Tale. This story tells how Gilead fell, and what I think is brilliant about it is that in many ways, Atwood turns the story of The Handmaid's Tale on its head by giving us the story, especially the backstory of these 3 women, and one of them is Aunt Lydia. So my question is, if I had a chance to ask Margaret Atwood, is the backstory of these 3 women, had she had that in mind when she wrote The Handmaid's Tale? And if not, how did she create this backstory? Because it is not what I expected it to be at all, and I thought that it was brilliant. Now, it wouldn't be as fantastic if it wasn't for the first book. So both are needed, in my opinion. You do need to have The Handmaid's Tale in order to appreciate this one. And finally, at number 1 is Alias Grace. This is Atwood's only true historical fiction novel, And again, I love how clever she was to fill in all of the missing gaps, which for this story, there are plenty of missing gaps. This story is based on the real-life character of Grace Marks, who was charged with murdering her employer and his mistress. And the story, had been told with a number of assumptions before Atwood wrote this book, and Atwood decided to change those assumptions and do what she does best and turn the story, around and change things. And I love how she does that. So those are my top 11 Margaret Atwood novels, and I'm really looking forward to reading her newest book, Burning Questions. I don't know when I'll get to this. Picking it up today, I wasn't expecting to do that, so I'm not sure when I will get around to it. I have a lot going on in March. My book pile for March is very tall, but I will keep you posted on this one. And please let me know if you have a favorite Margaret Atwood novel. Let me know which ones you've read, which ones you've liked the best, or which ones you are interested in. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments as always. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.